I exposed my fiancé at our engagement party. I didn't wait for a pause or a polite moment, because the second I saw my coworker whispering in my fiancé's ear at our engagement party, I walked straight over and asked what was so private it couldn't be said out loud. He jumped like I caught him stealing, laughed it off, and told me to relax, which immediately made my stomach drop. I told him not to tell me to relax in my own house, and my coworker stepped back pretending she didn't want drama, which was funny considering she was the one leaning in. I asked her if she wanted to explain why she'd been texting him at midnight for weeks, and she said I was misreading things. So I pulled out my phone and asked if screenshots were also a misunderstanding. My fiancé grabbed my wrist and hissed that this wasn't the time, and I told him it became the time the moment he lied to my face. People started staring, someone turned the music down, and my mom tried to intervene, but I asked her to wait because I was done swallowing half-truths. I read one message out loud, then another, then the one where he told her I was too much, and he needed someone easier. He tried to interrupt, so I asked him which part he wanted, me to stop reading, the flirting or the plans to see where this goes after the wedding. He said I was humiliating him, and I asked why my humiliation only mattered when guests were watching. My coworker finally spoke up and said they never actually did anything, and I told her emotional cheating still counts when you're planning a future with someone else. She rolled her eyes and said I was insecure, so I asked why she needed validation from a taken man if she was so confident. The room got louder, opinions flying, and my fiancé tried to pull me aside again, promising explanations. I told him explanations don't erase patterns, and patterns don't happen by accident. I asked him how long he planned to marry me while auditioning replacements, and he said he felt trapped. That word snapped something in me, so I told him he was free, effective immediately. I took off the ring and placed it on the table next to the cake he helped pick out, then asked the guests to enjoy dessert because the engagement was canceled. He stared at me like he expected tears, bargaining, anything softer than certainty. Instead, I told him to pack his things before morning, and thanked everyone for coming to what turned out to be a very honest party. Later, people texted saying I was dramatic, that I should have handled it privately. But none of them were the ones being quietly replaced. I didn't ruin the night. I stopped a marriage built on lies, and if that made people uncomfortable, that was the point. I let my broke boyfriend move in. Then I found his secret camera. I wish this was fake. I'm 22, and up until last month, I thought I was in a healthy relationship. My boyfriend Ryan was charming, funny, and broke. When we first started dating, he made it sound romantic. I just need someone who believes in me while I get on my feet. So when his lease ended, I let him move into my apartment. No rent, no bills. Just help around the house when you can. At first, it was perfect. He cooked sometimes, cuddled me every night, told me I was the best thing that ever happened to him. But 3 weeks in, I started noticing weird stuff. My phone battery was dying faster than usual. My laptop would randomly be unlocked when I knew I shut it. And my Wi-Fi history had devices I didn't recognize. One night, I came home early from work because I felt sick. When I walked in, I heard him whispering. Not talking to me. Not on a call. Whispering. In my bedroom. I quietly pushed the door open. He was sitting on my bed and facing my vanity mirror, holding his phone. When he saw me, he jumped like I'd caught him doing something illegal. He dropped his phone under the pillow and said, "Babe, you scared me." I laughed it off, but my stomach felt weird. Later that night, while he was asleep, I checked his phone. That's when I saw everything. He had a hidden folder labeled content. Inside were videos of me changing clothes, me in the shower, me asleep in my own bed. I felt like I was gonna throw up. But here's where it gets worse. In his messages, he wasn't just keeping them for himself. He was selling them. To strangers online. Men were paying him to leak more footage. One message said, "Next time get her from the closet angle." That's when I realized. The weird Wi-Fi devices? The battery drain? The late night whispering? He had installed a tiny camera in my closet. In my apartment. I woke him up and confronted him. He didn't deny it. He didn't even apologize at first. He just said, "You're overreacting. People make money like this all the time." I kicked him out that night. Police were called the next morning. But here's the twist that still haunts me. When they checked his laptop, they found something else. Videos of his previous girlfriends too, meaning this wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. And I wasn't his first victim. Now I'm moving out of that apartment, changing all my passwords, and going to therapy. Because the scariest part isn't just what he did. It's realizing I invited a stranger into my home and trusted him with my entire life. I found out my best friend was sleeping with my mom. I didn't freeze when I heard my name come out of my mom's mouth. I turned around and asked her why my best friend's jacket was hanging on our kitchen chair at 10 at night. And before she could answer, he walked out of the hallway like he lived there. I asked him what the hell he was doing in my house, and he tried to joke, which pissed me off more than anything. So I told him to stop smiling and answer the question. My mom snapped at me for raising my voice. And I asked her why she wasn't more concerned that my best friend was walking around in socks like this was normal. He said it wasn't what I thought, so I asked him what I was supposed to think when he'd been lying to me for months. Canceling plans, dodging calls, and suddenly knew my mom's schedule better than I did. My mom told me to calm down and sit. And I told her I wasn't sitting anywhere. Until someone explained why my best friend was acting like a second parent in my house. That's when he admitted they'd been seeing each other. And I laughed because it sounded so unreal I thought he was messing with me. When I realized he was serious, I asked my mom how long she planned on pretending this wasn't insane. She said I was being dramatic and that she deserved happiness. And I told her happiness doesn't come from sneaking around with someone who used to sit at our table and ask me for relationship advice. My best friend said he never meant to hurt me, and I asked him how lying straight to my face every day was supposed to be harmless. The argument exploded, voices overlapping, my mom accusing me of being selfish, him saying he loved her, and me asking when exactly he stopped respecting me at all. I told him he knew every insecure thought I'd ever had about my family, every fight I'd had with my mom, and he used that to get closer to her. He denied it, but he couldn't look me in the eye when I asked why he only started coming over when I stopped talking to her. My mom started crying and said I was twisting things, and I told her she twisted my trust the moment she chose him over me. I grabbed my phone and told them I'd already sent screenshots to his parents because I refused to be the only one humiliated by this. That's when he lost it, yelling that I had no right. And I asked where his sense of right was when he was sneaking into my childhood home. My mom begged me to stop, saying I was destroying the family, and I told her she did that on her own and just didn't want to admit it out loud. I walked out while they screamed after me, and I blocked both of them in the driveway, realizing the worst betrayal wasn't the relationship itself. It was how easily they expected me to swallow it and stay quiet. The police knocked at 2 a.m., and I realized my boyfriend was using my identity. I didn't find out my boyfriend was cheating the normal way. I found out because the police knocked on my door at 2 a.m. asking where he was and why his phone location was pinging from my apartment. I was half asleep, barefoot, shaking and confused because he wasn't even home that night, and suddenly I was being treated like I was hiding a criminal. When I told them the truth, they exchanged a look that made my stomach drop, and that's when they told me he was being questioned in another state for assault and fraud, and that my name kept coming up in his messages. After they left, I opened his laptop with hands so shaky I could barely type, and what I found made me sick. He wasn't just cheating, he was using my identity. He had taken pictures of my ID, my signature, even screenshots of my bank app, and sent them to multiple women, telling them I was his sister who handled his finances. He used my name to rent cars, to book hotels, to move money around, and every single message ended with him saying if anything went wrong, it would fall on me, not him. I confronted him the next morning, and instead of denying it, he smiled and told me to calm down, because no one would believe me anyway. He said I lived with him so it would look like I was involved, and if I went to the police, he would tell them I planned everything. That's when I realized I wasn't dating a liar. I was living with someone who was preparing to sacrifice me. I packed my things and tried to leave, but his mom blocked the door and told me to stop, being dramatic because her son was stressed, and I was making things worse. She said if I destroyed his future, she would make sure I regretted it and that I should think carefully about who had the better story. I pushed past her, shaking, crying, knowing I might already be too late. Weeks later, I found out he had already told people I was abusive, unstable, and dangerous, and some believed him. The case is still open, and I don't know how this ends, but I do know this: sometimes the most dangerous people aren't strangers. They're the ones sleeping next to you, planning their escape, using your life as collateral. I found out I wasn't even invited to my own grandmother's funeral. I found out my family had been lying to me my entire life because my grandmother died and my name wasn't on anything. Not the will, not the obituary, not even the guest list for the funeral. I grew up in her house. I slept in the back bedroom. I helped her bathe when she got sick. I skipped school to take care of her, and everyone always said I was her favorite. So when I found out she passed from a Facebook post written by my cousin, I knew something was wrong. I called my mom crying, asking why no one told me, and she went silent for so long. I thought the call dropped, and then she said maybe it was better this way. I drove to the funeral anyway, shaking the entire time, and when I walked in, the room went quiet like I wasn't supposed to be there. My aunt pulled me aside and whispered that I was making people uncomfortable and that this wasn't the place for drama, which made my blood boil because I didn't even know what drama she was talking about. That's when my cousin told me the truth without even looking guilty. He said Grandma never wanted me there, that I was only taken in because my parents didn't want me, and that everyone agreed it was easier if I believed I was loved. I felt like I couldn't breathe hearing that because every memory I had, every hug, every promise suddenly felt fake. I demanded to see the will, and that's when everything exploded. My mom started screaming, telling me I was selfish, that Grandma left everything to the family, and that I wasn't really part of it anyway. She said it like it was obvious, like I should have known my place. That's when my aunt finally admitted they had changed things. Years ago, after a fight none of them ever told me about, and they decided I didn't deserve anything. Not the house, not the money, not even closure. I left the funeral shaking, crying, feeling like my entire childhood had been rewritten without my consent. Days later, I found out they sold the house already, cleared out my room, donated my things, and kept what mattered, and no one even asked if I wanted anything. When I confronted my mom, she told me I should be grateful they raised me at all, and that some people don't even get that. Now I sit here questioning every memory, wondering if love was ever real or just something they pretended long enough so I wouldn't ask questions. I don't know if I was unwanted or just convenient, but I do know this: the people who raised you can decide you never mattered and still sleep at night, and that realization hurts more than any lie I've ever been told.